Hey YouTube, hope you're having a good weekend so far. This is First Alert Meteorologist John Burchfield. You may have gotten woken up this morning by some noisy thunderstorms. We saw some winds, some hail, some very heavy rain, and kind of a little bit of a calm stretch right now before more thunderstorms return this evening. So first of all, let me know where you're tuning in from. We're live here on YouTube. Be sure to give us a follow, WTOL 11 on YouTube. And just leave your comments below. I want to make sure you can hear the audio okay, see the microphone and everything. We're live here. Obviously now with everything going on in the world, we are broadcasting the weather from home. So doing this live YouTube video from the comfort of my living room, but I have access to all the latest weather maps and data and want to get you updated on today's stormy situation. Now I just sent out a push alert to that First Alert Weather app, and that should notify you that we are live here on YouTube. So hopefully if you got the push notification on the app, you're joining us live on the WTOL 11 YouTube page. We're going to talk about the return of some heavy rain, some strong storms this evening, as well as the chance for maybe an isolated severe thunderstorm. So we've been live here on YouTube for about a minute. Be sure to leave your comments. I'm going to get to those as best as possible and answer any questions that you might have about the weather. So we're going to start off by talking about the timing and the impacts of this storm system. It looks like the push notification just went out, so it says join live right now. John tracks more strong to severe storms. So for those of you tuning in from the First Alert Weather app, thank you very much. Just going live to talk about the return of some thunderstorms this evening, some of which could potentially be strong to severe. So I'm going to wait for a few more of your comments to come through. Basically what I'm expecting this evening is as a low-pressure weather system moves into the viewing area, we're going to see some heavy rain, some strong storms, and that wind, hail, and rain threat. That's what we're going to be expecting into the evening hours as more strong to potentially severe storms return. All right, next graphic, we're going to be talking about where exactly this severe threat's going to occur. There is the chance for a few strong to maybe isolated severe thunderstorms in Toledo, in northwest Ohio, in southeastern Michigan. However, the greatest severe threat is to the west of us. So I just pulled up the new graphic as far as the storm threat. We've got Wesley tuning in. Thanks for joining us, Wesley. How strong of winds? That's a good question. So overnight through the day tomorrow, expecting wind gusts with those thunderstorms, possibly 60 to maybe 65 miles an hour. And even into the day Sunday, Wesley, we're still going to be seeing some wind gusts around 40 to 45 miles an hour, and that's after the storm has passed. So this just goes to show, Wesley, that this low-pressure system means business. We're going to be seeing wind gusts with those thunderstorms, like I said, around 60 miles an hour possible, and then tomorrow, even once that low clears out of the viewing area, we could still get some wind gusts in the ballpark of 40 to 45 miles an hour. Summer, thanks for joining us from Oak Harbor. Hope you can see the video and hear the audio okay. Marlinda, I hope I pronounced that right, says it hailed in Elmore today. Yeah, we actually got quite a few hail photos this morning. It was a little bit of a noisy start to the day with those thunderstorms, and we could maybe even see a little bit more hail into the evening. Now that I've got a few more of you tuning in, I'm going to go back to the graphic that I started off on, which is those thunderstorm threats that we're expecting today. I'm going to check out a few of your comments here, and just stick with me for a few minutes as I answer these to the best of my ability. So Nick asks a good question: is there potential lifting action or any warm air rising create rotation? So Nick, I'm going to try to answer this in as best of a way as possible for most of our viewers tuning in. We are going to get some warm air surge in today as a warm front lifts to the north, and as temperatures rise, that kind of provides a little bit of fuel for more thunderstorm development. So especially to the south of Toledo, where those temperatures are really going to warm up, that's where I expect the greatest thunderstorm threat is going to be to the south of Toledo. I'm going to pull up the storm threats graphic. So the greatest storm threat, the greatest tornado threat is well out of reach of our viewing area. So I already see a few comments coming in about possible rotation, tornadoes, worries like that. I'm not overly concerned about the threat for rotating storms. It's something that is possible. It's a greater than 0% chance. It's something we're going to keep a very close eye on. But the real tornado threat is well out of reach for us. The greatest severe threat, that's to the west of the viewing area where you see that red shaded area. So across northern Illinois, even into northwest Indiana. So I'm going to read through a few more of your comments. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. And don't worry, there's just a lot of comments coming through on YouTube right now, so I'm going to try to answer them as well as I can. So, of course, getting a lot more questions about tornadoes. You know, it's something that's a very, very low risk. It's something the First Alert Weather Team is going to keep a close eye on, but it's not something that I want you to be overly concerned about, but you still do want to stay weather alert today. Grab that First Alert Weather app, be checking radar periodically throughout the day, and of course, the latest will be on WTO 11 on your TV. So we've got a viewer from Maumee. Thanks for joining us. Christopher, thank you for tuning in. Yeah, Wesley, you're welcome for the answer. Thanks for continuing to work during this time, and best of luck with this weekend. Hope you have a good one, Wesley. Let's see. Connie, tornado threat is very low this weekend. It's something we'll keep a close eye on, but it's not something I'm overly concerned about. Main risks are simply going to be the very heavy rain, the hail potential, as well as those gusty winds. So I zoomed in the storm threat graphic a little bit closer to northwest Ohio and southeastern Michigan. You can check that out. As I mentioned before, the warm air, as that warm front lifts in, is going to be predominantly to the south of Toledo. So that's where I expect the greatest storm threat, to the south and southwest of Toledo. So we got a question about when the storms are starting. So I'm going to go right into the hour-by-hour forecast. I expect to see more storms starting this evening. So right around 5 o'clock p.m., for those of you wondering when the storms are going to return, obviously we saw some storms this morning. Right now, kind of experiencing a lull, but I'm going to show you the hour-by-hour forecast. This evening, we're going to see a resurgence of more thunderstorms, basically as the low-pressure weather system moves in out of the west and as a warm front lifts to the north. Those two ingredients are going to produce some lifting, some thunderstorms, and possibly a noisy evening. So from 5 to 9 p.m., that's when I expect the thunderstorms are really going to start to roll in again. And late this evening, so right around showtime on WTOL from 9 to 11 p.m., that's when some of those thunderstorms could get strong to potentially severe. All right, I'm going to leave up the hour-by-hour forecast. Going to check out a few more of your comments. Thanks for bearing with me. There's a lot of comments to get to here. So we've got Casey tuning in from Findlay. Thanks for joining us. Andrew says, good afternoon, storm chasers. Everyone, please be safe. If you are out and about today, of course, the best place to be is from the comfort of your own home, especially with everything that's going on. But you do want to stay especially weather aware today. So please be cautious and grab that First Alert Weather app. The strongest storms. Tad has a question about the strongest storms. So to answer that question, Tad, I think that the hour-by-hour screenshot that I have up right now is kind of when the strongest storms are going to begin. So right around 9 p.m., and then I'm going to advance to the next slide, which shows you sort of when the thunderstorms are finally going to clear out. We are going to see some clearing, maybe even a little bit of sunshine in store for you Sunday, but through the late evening and early morning hours, that's when I expect some of the strongest storms to roll on through. So the strongest storms starting around 9 p.m. or so, continuing through 10 and 11. I'm hoping that after midnight that storm threat is going to be done with, but of course we'll continue to stay on top of the weather and keep you updated so long as there is a storm threat. Tiffin, so David's tuning in from Tiffin. Yeah, there is the chance for a few strong to isolated severe storms in Tiffin, David. As with a lot of thunderstorm systems this time of year, the storms don't uniformly hit everyone. Some folks get really heavy downpours and strong wind gusts, and maybe 20 miles to the east or to the west, you don't see really much of anything. So even though everyone has the risk for some strong to severe thunderstorms, that's not to say that every one of you watching right now is going to get the same weather impacts this evening, but it's something that we do want to keep you alert about as we go forward. So I'm going to go back to the graphic that I started off on, which kind of goes over some of the storm threats that we're expecting for the evening. Talks about the timing being predominantly this evening after 5 o'clock p.m. Biggest threat's going to be wind, rain, and hail. And as I mentioned before, the tornado risk, it's very low, but it's still greater than zero. So it's something we're going to keep an eye on, but it's not something that you need to panic about throughout the day. And of course, we'll continue to keep you safe, keep you updated during this difficult time. So these are the storm threats for the evening. I'm checking out a few of your comments here on YouTube. Colin asks, are we going to see lightning in Toledo? Colin, we already did last night, and there's definitely the chance for some more lightning and thunderstorms this evening. You know, as with all thunderstorms this time of year, some of them could be very noisy with that loud thunder. We could see lightning. In fact, Colin, so last night, nearby where I live, there was a tree that was struck down by lightning, and that was a little bit scary last night. Thankfully, it didn't injure anybody, but it was a big tree, and there is the potential for more lightning this evening. So, as I mentioned, the thunderstorms arrive later this evening after 5 p.m., and that's when we could see some thunder, lightning, as well as some strong wind impacts. David, you're welcome. Hope you have a good rest of your weekend. Michael says we had a lot of rain. Yeah, Michael, we did have a lot of rain. I'm going to jump over to the rainfall forecast map. We could, add on another inch or so to the rainfall totals we've already experienced. I skipped through a few graphics here, but hopefully it's going to land on the hour-by-hour rainfall forecast, which kind of indicates the chance for half an inch to an inch, maybe even up to an inch and a half in some of those stronger thunderstorm cells. And this is tonight through tomorrow morning. We could continue to see some isolated flooding concerns. So do keep in mind that if your home is more prone to flooding, we could see another inch or two of rainfall through the evening and early part of tomorrow morning. So keep that in mind. Of course, the heavy rain is really the biggest impact of these thunderstorms. I did mention the threats for wind and hail as well, but heavy rain really is still the primary concern that we're going to be looking at for the rest of the evening. Melissa has a question about Lenawee County. Not going to forget about all our southern Michigan viewers. The risk for severe weather is a little bit lower up in Lenawee, and the reason for that, the warm front's not quite going to make it up to the Ohio-Michigan border. I'm going to jump back to the severe weather threat. So you can see that green color across much of southern Michigan, and then the yellow color further to the south and to the west. So if you live in the green shaded area, that includes Sandusky, Monroe, even northern portions of Adrian, that severe risk is going to be a little bit lower. The further south and the further west you live, the greater your chances are for getting some noisy thunderstorms this evening. So Lisa has a question. Will there be high winds and wind shear? So Lisa, in fact, the winds are the main threat, one of the main threats that we're expecting for the evening. Somebody asked a question very early on in this live video. I mentioned the chance for 60 to maybe 65 mile an hour wind gusts this evening. And as we go into tomorrow, even after this weather system clears, we could continue to get 40 to 45 mile per hour wind gusts into your Sunday. And keep in mind, those are just non-thunderstorm wind gusts. When the thunderstorms strike, they could be even stronger. So winds will certainly be a viable concern this evening. I'm going to go back to the storm threat graphic. The biggest threats, rain, wind, hail, probably in that order. I'd say heavy downpours of rain, the main concern, followed by winds, and then hail also going to be a continued threat into the evening. We got a question that says, thanks for the update. Really appreciate you guys staying on top of this. Will we see any hail in Toledo? Possibly. So I'm not sure of with some of these YouTube handles, it's hard to know your real name or if it's just the YouTube handle. But to answer that question about hail in Toledo, yes, hail is a possibility, but as we go forward into these evening storms, it's more so going to be a wind and rain type threat, whereas this morning storms, those were certainly hail makers. So we are going to be still tracking the potential for some hail, but I think the main threats that we're going to be focusing on over the next couple hours are going to be the wind and the rain as well. Scott asks, will we see more storms later? Scott, we're talking about the return of some thunderstorms, mainly after 5 p.m. This evening, you're definitely going to want that weather app. You might want to check the First Alert Doppler on your radar. Basically, just stay weather alert as you would on any potential severe weather day. It's going to be one of those days where you're just going to want to stay tuned. Definitely tune in here on YouTube, as well as our WTOL 11 Facebook page. So we got a question saying, my heart doesn't do well with stuff like this, especially tornadoes. Well, I do want to provide you a little bit of comfort in this, in that the tornado threat is extremely low for this evening. I'm not going to say it's zero because there is still a greater than zero chance of some rotating storm activity. However, it's not a primary concern for this evening. It's something that we always have to keep a very close eye on, and we'll continue to keep you updated, continue to keep you safe, but it's not something that I want you to be too concerned about. It's mostly going to be a wind and rain sort of event. And we'll continue to watch these thunderstorms, and as things evolve throughout the afternoon and evening, we'll keep you updated. But for those of you who are worried about rotating storms, worried about, funnel clouds, tornadoes, the main tornado threat is well out of reach for us. Where you see that red shaded area from Davenport through the Chicagoland area, down through Peoria, Illinois, that is where tornadoes could pose a threat this evening. For us here in Northwest Ohio and Southern Michigan, tornadic activity is not our main concern. So hopefully that gives you a little bit of comfort. It's mostly the rain and the wind that we're keeping an eye on. But of course, with any storm system, we do stay weather alert for the potential for a little bit of rotation. Melissa, you're welcome. I'm checking out a few more of your comments. Lisa says, thank you. I say you're welcome. So we've got a question from Melissa about wind in Lenawee. So Melissa, with any of these strong to severe thunderstorms that do bubble up this evening, 60 to 65 mile an hour winds, and even as the storms clear out of the area, we could continue to see some 40 to 45 mile an hour wind gusts tomorrow, and those aren't even going to be thunderstorm wind gusts. It's just going to be a very windy day tomorrow. It's going to be sort of a partly cloudy, just very gusty, much cooler sort of feeling day. Julie says everyone stay in and stay safe. Yeah, Julie, I agree with that sentiment. If the weather doesn't keep you in, then everything else going on in the world today should certainly keep you inside. Definitely good advice. And of course, Julie will continue to keep you updated and keep you safe. We're live on WTOL at 6 and then 11, so turn on your TV. We'll join you live on air as necessary, but of course, YouTube's a great way for us to be in touch, even outside of our regularly scheduled newscasts. Evelyn says you're doing an amazing job to keep us informed. You're very welcome, Evelyn. I want to try to answer these questions as best as possible. There's a lot of information to get to. The reason I've got this particular graphic up right now is because I want to reassure those of you who are worried about rotating storms, potentially worried about tornadoes. The main tornado risk today is hundreds of miles to the west of us. That's not to say that it's a 0% chance, because we always want to be on our guard. You never want to just totally discount the threat for damaging weather, but at the same time, you got to live your life, and you've got to enjoy your weekend aside from worrying about the weather. So this live video is, of course, designed just to keep you updated and keep you informed, but I don't want to scare you into thinking we're going to get rotating storms, because the main threats, as I've been highlighting, are going to be just the heavy rain, the winds, as well as the hail potential. Let's see. Check out a few more of your comments. That's what I like to hear, Julia. Julie, I'm sorry. Julie says WTOL is our #1 station. Well, that's very sweet of you. We'll continue to keep you updated on the storm threat as the day unfolds. And of course, we'll keep you updated online and on air as necessary. So I'm going to see if there's a few more of your comments coming through. There's a lot of comments, and of course, I can't get to all of them just because they're coming in so fast. But I'm glad you all joined in on the live video. For those of you that don't have the First Alert Weather app, I did send out a push notification on the app. It said join live right now. So whenever you have the weather app, you get those notifications to let you know that we are live on YouTube or Facebook. So that's definitely a good way to stay up to date and to know exactly when we're going live on YouTube. I'm really glad that this live video is held up for so long. Sometimes this, as with any sort of technology, we do have our fair share of issues, but we've gotten all the kinks worked out now that we've got the work from home setup going. And I'm thankful this live video has been up and running for 15 to 20 minutes. So glad that all your comments are coming through. I'm going to answer a few more of them. We've been live for about 17 minutes. We'll keep it going for a couple more minutes. So Scott says, can you explain the loud boom at about 4:15 a.m.? Didn't sound like thunder. I live in Gibsonburg. You know, Scott, it's hard to know exactly what happened at 4:15 a.m. It could have been thunder in the distance. Scott, so last night I actually heard a loud boom outside of where I live, and it turns out it wasn't thunder, it was a tree getting struck by lightning. I posted an image on my Facebook page, and I said it sounded like God was hitting a golf ball, because that's pretty much the best analogy I can make. It was just this loud, sharp, booming noise. There were some thunderstorms rolling through late last night, early in the morning, so it could have been thunder, but that's just my best guess as far as that goes. Melissa, yes, stay safe, everyone. Stay updated, stay informed, and hopefully stay inside, because you should be staying inside anyways, if not just for the weather. Yeah, Sherry, I don't think anyone loves severe weather. I mean, it is fascinating as a meteorologist. I do like to study severe weather, and it is interesting to me, but of course I hope that the weather stays calm this evening so nobody has to worry about it, and we can all stay safe. Good question, John. John D. asks, does the limited sunshine have any factor that will limit the severe threat? So, John, that's a good question. Sunshine kind of acts as fuel for the fire in terms of building thunderstorms this time of year. So, I was actually comparing it yesterday to somebody. I was saying that that sunshine is kind of like turning the stove on high. When you're boiling water on the stove, it's going to boil faster if the stove's turned on high versus turned on low. You know, the higher the temperature, the faster the water boils. Similarly, when you get a lot of sunshine on a day like this, that sunshine kind of turns the temperature of the quote-unquote stove up, and that can act as fuel for thunderstorm development. So yeah, it's been cloudy all day. We haven't had much sunshine. That's definitely a strike against severe weather. But I don't know, John, if you were there when I mentioned that warm front lifting to the north. Temperatures are actually going to get warmer throughout the afternoon. So some spots can make it up close to 70 degrees this afternoon and evening. So the warm front itself, even though we don't have much sunshine, that warm front itself is going to act as a lifting mechanism, we call it, which causes the rising air. So Yeah, sunshine is definitely more conducive to severe thunderstorms, but I do think with that warm front lifting to the north, that'll form some thunderstorm development. And that's kind of why the severe threat is a little bit greater to the south and southwest, because down towards, say, Ottawa and Findlay, the temperatures are going to warm up a little bit more than they will in Monroe. Christine, oh, that's very sweet of you, Christine. Christine says you're among my favorite meteorologists. Appreciate you here in Point Place. Be safe in all this. Yeah, Christine, I'm definitely going to be safe. As a station, we're taking all the necessary precautions. Of course, the work from home has been a great way to socially distance ourselves, but continue to keep you updated. Right now, I'm just doing this live video from my living room, but I have access to all the same weather maps, all the same computer data, and also I can just look outside the window too. We don't have any windows at the WTOL Weather Center, but I got a window here, so I've got all sorts of ways to keep you updated. You're very welcome. Thanks for tuning in here on YouTube. John, you're welcome for the reply. That was a really good question. I try not to nerd out too much with the weather specifics, but that is definitely something we talk about in severe weather, is that sunshine can help fuel these thunderstorms and can provide instability, as we call it. Basically, that rising air that's the equivalent of turning your stove up on high. So even though we don't have the sunshine going today, we still do have a warm front lifting to the north, which can still fuel some instability. Scott, I hope you stay safe too. You're welcome. I'm glad that we can make these YouTube lives sort of interactive and answer questions. Nate says the sun is trying to pop through clouds in Curtis, much brighter than it was an hour ago. Yeah, Nate, that is both a good and a bad thing. A bad thing in the sense that it could help fuel more thunderstorms later, but it does mean we get several hours of a break in those thunderstorms. I'm going to go back to my timing graphic that showed the storm threat timing. The main window of time frame that we're talking about for the additional thunderstorm development is going to be after 5 o'clock p.m. this evening. So I do think for the next couple of hours it's going to be sort of a calm, dry spell before those thunderstorms begin to pop up again this evening. All right, I hope I answered quite a few of your questions. If I didn't get to your question, I apologize. There's just so many coming in, but it's a good thing. I'm glad you all are staying up to date on the weather. If you don't have the First Alert weather app, what are you doing? Come on, get that weather app. It's free download in the Google Play Store or the Apple Store. We'll keep you updated here on YouTube. Definitely check WTOL on Facebook. And of course, we have a live newscast going on at 6 o'clock. So that's in about 4.5 hours from now. But I did just want to give you a little afternoon update. Thanks so much for taking a part out of your Saturday afternoon. Stay safe, stay home, stay inside. You know the drill. We'll keep you updated and hope you have a good rest of your weekend. Take care.